Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from the Colonial Dungeon, this is the Court Martial Podcast! Introducing your host for this evening, he has a bald spot on the top of his head, and he weighs in tonight at a number you don't need to know. He is the Colonial Loudmouth, Sean McCarty! And welcome everybody to another tremendous, exemplary edition of the Court Martial Podcast, the Palace of Pontification, the massive erect statue of misinformation, but with just enough entertainment and just enough facts to glue it all together. I am your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, here for ACPW versus NWL Week 5. We have two shows for you, and with me today is the proprietor of the National Wrestling League, who will explain what I mean by that. He is the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour, the man from the Bay, rocking it all day, gonna give you the best books, hook or crook, knows what he took, and what he took was names. Your man, your favorite, Skyler Greenberg. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Oh, they just keep getting better and longer.
I'm trying to come up with it. It's at some point I'm gonna run out of rhymes to work with, but until that happens,
keep the long intros.
I will keep it going. So, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay, although I am going to say that this show was a bit of a pain to put together for the National Wrestling League.
Yeah.
Just because of life circumstances coming up. So,
sure.
That's always a little bit of pain.
Well, and if you recall, it took a week.
Huh?
We had to postpone this a week, kind of, because I had to go with the same stuff. So I hear you. Right.
And the other thing, too, is that stuff happened in wrestling that has forced me to kind of book on the fly.
Yes. I understand what you mean. And maybe when we get to that point, you'd explain to people what we mean. I don't want them to tune off, you to explain it now, and then they tune off within the first 2 minutes of the show starting. So we'll at least get them into it a little bit. But I hear you.
That's a fair point.
But I hear you. Honestly, for me, this was tough because I'm trying to build up to December, but this ended up being something of a maintenance show for ACPW. I will openly admit it's not my best work, but it's serviceable. It's a serviceable maintenance show. It's going to be adequate, and I think sometimes, and I do somewhat sympathize with WWE for having to book like this and having to do all this on the fly, and why some of those pay-per-views end up being B pay-per-views. Just because they need something serviceably maintenance to get to some of those bigger moments.
Well, that's the thing, is that not every pay-per-view can be a WrestleMania or a Royal Rumble or SummerSlam.
Right.
You have to have shows that of a lesser value in between, so that way you can get to where you need to get to. Yeah, and I think that's a misconception that wrestling fans have, is like, not every show has to have a super fantastic 5-star match at the main event.
Agreed.
You can have shows with good matches, but you don't have to have them be perfect.
And it's also better on that basis that not everything is great, because then when things are great, you end up appreciating them more. It ends up making the fever pitch of a show better. And I think that is something that really is exemplified too, because like a lot of times with our opening matches, I've noticed, Sky, especially with yours and especially with mine, they're not meant to be great matches. They're just matches that are there, just kind of keep things moving along. And while they have meaning and they have a place, they're not standalone. They don't have to all be Hogan versus The Rock.
Exactly, because if you're asking people to start off with a really, really fantastic match, how in the hell are you supposed to follow that up?
Right.
That goes back to the whole structuring of a pay-per-view and how sometimes I am critical of WWE because they start off pay-per-views with really fantastic matches, and then they follow it up with something that isn't as good, and it brings the show down.
Or in the same vein, but to a lesser quality extent, it's like when the Young Bucks go on before anybody else, because they do all the moves, every single move, and then nothing else feels important anymore. In the same kind of framework. But we'll get to the Young Bucks later.
I'm still upset at you that you decided to hire those fuckers.
We'll get to them later. Why don't we move on? Why don't we just start with NWL? Why don't you break down for us what Week 5, what Pay-Per-View 5 of the National Wrestling League is here to bring? The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, my man. And I'm going to tell the people right now, I did not share this match card with you.
I know nothing.
So you're going to experience everything for the first time.
I know nothing.
All you know is that this poster that is currently visible is awesome.
Yes.
NWL Judgment Day. And it took me a couple minutes to make that one.
And I'm hyped. I'm excited. What I'm looking at is terrific. It is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I've got my ticket right here. I bought it legally online with PayPal. We are good to go. I am ready to be sports entertained, sir.
All right. So we're going to do a quick tidy up because of the Hart Foundation cut, some rankings have changed and some in significant ways.
Okay.
But as should be noted, Roman Reigns is your number one and undisputed number one contender.
Correct.
And him and Drew McIntyre are going to wrestle for the world title next month. That's going to be a doozy.
And what's the name of that one again?
Wrestle Festival.
Wrestle Festival. And I'm told that is your version of WrestleMania, your biggest pay-per-view of the year.
It is.
Got it.
So, our contenders 2 through 5 are Jon Moxley, number 2, AJ Styles, number 3, Daniel Bryan, number 4, and Kevin Owens, number 5. And those 4 men are going to be starting a 4-man title opportunity tournament.
Okay.
So later on tonight, Jon Moxley, number 2, will face off against Kevin Owens, number 5, and AJ Styles will go head-to-head with Daniel Bryan. The winner of those matches will face off at the next show, and the winner of that match will be the number 1 contender.
Oh, for December.
For the December show.
For December, okay. So that means that we are going to know who the number 1 contender is, theoretically, before we know who will have won Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns at Wrestle Festival. But both matches are on that card.
Yes.
Got it.
And then we have Seth Rollins, number 6.
Yep.
Edge, number 7. Andrade Cien Almas, dropping from 5 to number 8.
Wow.
And the reason why is that, according to Kurt Angle, Andrade's attack on Daniel Bryan was the act of a coward and not the act of a major contender. So he dropped him 3 spots.
Wait. So, whoa. That is a huge revelation. Let's back. So you're telling me, Mr. Greenberg, that the man who's been controlling the power rankings has been Kurt Angle this whole time?
Well, to be clear, me and Kurt Angle worked together on them.
Okay, all right.
But Kurt Angle felt strongly, and I agree with him, that Andrade's attack on Daniel Bryan at Hart Foundation Cup was an act of a coward.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to clear that up, but I did not know that Kurt Angle was directly influencing the rankings. That is huge.
Well, Kurt Angle, I trust him as a wrestling genius.
Oh, I do too.
And a man who has been wrestling for years to know what he's doing.
Yeah, I know, I do too. I just didn't know that was happening. That is an important detail that in 5 weeks that's a bombshell revelation, Sky.
That is fair. My apologies if I didn't make that clear.
I'm already sports entertained just by that little tad of information alone.
Anyways, so we have Keith Lee, number 9, and Nick Aldis, number 10.
Okay.
So, let's go to a backstage segment before the show begins.
All right.
So we are in Kurt Angle's office, and no one's currently there. And Kurt Angle, he opens the door. He has a couple of papers that he's checking before the show begins. He looks up and he sees the cameraman. What the hell are you doing here? And then he looks at the desk of his office, and he says, what the hell are you doing here? The chair at the desk turns around, and it is Marko Stunt.
Oh, no.
And Marko Stunt says, hello, Kurt. I have this cameraman here because I want to make sure that I document everything that's about to happen.
that sounds bad.
Kurt Angle is angry and says, "You are not a National Wrestling League contracted wrestler. Get the hell out of my office." And Marko Stunt says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. Why the hostilities? Don't you want me as a talent on your roster? I can bring so much to the National Wrestling League. All this untapped potential." Kurt Angle says, "You've already had 2 chances. You got your ass kicked by Kevin Owens, and you got your ass kicked by Seth Rollins. I ain't giving you a 3rd chance. Get the hell out of my office." Marko Stunt says, "Okay, but if you kick me out of your office right now, this picture," and he's holding up a picture of himself at an Indiana wrestling show being held down by another guy forced to suck a rubber dick.
Oh, no.
This picture will be published to the National Wrestling League website, and it will be sent to the sponsors, and you'll have to answer why one of your affiliated talents was doing this sort of deplorable act.
He's blackmailing Kurt with his own stupidity.
He did it on purpose so he could get some data, some shit to blackmail Kurt Angle with.
God damn it, Sky. You turned absolute lunacy into an angle.
Kurt Angle is furious, but he realizes that he has to play along.
Wow.
So he says, "What do you want, Marko?" And Marko says, "I want a match tonight, and if I win, I get a contract." And Kurt Owens says, "Fine, whatever. I'll find an opponent for you. Now get out of my office." Marko Stunt begins to leave for the office, and he closes the door. The cameraman starts following out, but Kurt Angle says, "Hey, you, come here for a second." And then the camera goes black.
Okay.
So.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
What do you think of that?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, if he doesn't have an NWL contract, Marko Stunt.
Yes.
And he has the photo of him doing the nasty to the thing that he's gonna blackmail Kurt with, on the premise that he'll reveal to everybody that somebody that was on his show was doing this.
Yes.
But it's also airing on NWL programming anyway. So wouldn't everybody already see the picture?
But it will go to the sponsors who don't usually watch the shows.
Okay, all right, okay, fine. Okay, thank you.
And it'll be published on the website.
Okay, I suppose. Okay. That makes more sense. So Marko Stunt knows how to work a laptop, I see, amongst other things.
Yes. Also, to be clear, Marko described the picture. The picture was not seen.
Okay.
It was in an envelope, but he described what it was.
Yeah, I think that's for the best.
Yes.
Okay.
And my apologies.
Well, what a way to start.
Will have a match tonight. Marko Stunt will have a match tonight, and if he wins, he gets a contract.
What a way to start the show. I don't even know how to react to that. I'm impressed, and I applaud you for trying to work actual shoot idiocy and moronic behavior into an actual angle on your show that would somewhat actually be compelling.
Thank you for that.
I tip my hat to you, sir. I appreciate the effort.
Well, you have yet to hear the end of this story.
Oh, I'm sure. Here we go.
Anyways, so we have our first preliminary show matchup. Now, this is technically the pre-show.
Pre-show.
We have a tag team match. We have the wild cards, Thomas Latimer and Royce Isaacs, and they're going up against the tag team of Apollo Crews and Bobby Lashley.
The debuting Apollo Crews and Bobby Lashley.
And their manager, Eric Bischoff.
Okay. Interesting.
This is a very quick match. Apollo Crews and Bobby Lashley make quick work of the wild cards.
Wow.
It doesn't It doesn't take many minutes. They pick both of them up. They do the Super Collider Powerbomb finish. 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
And Eric Bischoff, he grabs the microphone, stands in between these two behemoths, and he says, "I'm back, and I'm better than ever." You see, I was the master of ceremonies for the Hart Foundation Cup, but I'm not satisfied with being on the sidelines anymore. I want in on the National Wrestling League. And look at my talent. Apollo Crews, one of the single most athletic wrestlers that you'll ever see. Bobby Lashley, pure power. We are the almighty crew, and we're here to take over the National Wrestling League.
Okay. I'm trying to visualize Bischoff and Lashley and Crews together. That's like it's a weird pairing, but I like it. I like it because Bischoff is just all about, so different.
It's all about Eric Bischoff wanting to take over with two of the most best athletes in wrestling today.
It's I like it. I like everything about this. It's just the visual. I'm trying to get the visual of those three in the ring, but I think it really could work. I do. I like that idea. Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
Well, the next thing is Marko Stunt.
At least it's
the Marko Stunt.
So he didn't even get a match on the actual show. He got a match on the pre-show because we will not put him on the main show.
It's not a main show match; it's a pre-show match.
That's right. I like it.
So Marko Stunt with a microphone walks out to the ring. And this was also added in, by the way. He gets a couple minutes to speak to the people.
Oh, great.
So Marko Stunt says, "I thank Kurt Angle for the opportunity to wrestle for you, my adoring fans, once more. I am Marko Stunt, and I will be the world heavyweight champion once I win this match and once I begin my climb. I am the future of wrestling, and all my untapped potential will now be seen."
Oh. Terrible
promo.
That would get heat. That would get heat.
It would.
People would boo that.
And Marko Stunt likes to point out something. And I knew something else, too. When Kurt Angle booked the show, he booked every single wrestler except for one, Hornswoggle. And Hornswoggle's music hits. But he doesn't come out. Several minutes pass by, and Marko Stunt's confused, as is the referee. And then Hornswoggle's music stops. Another referee runs out to the ring, tells the other referee, and the main referee for this match talks with the ring announcer. And the ring announcer says the following: Kurt Angle has selected a special opponent for Marko Stunt, making his return. Are you ready, Sean? The music for Kurt Angle hits, but he is not in a suit. He is in a singlet.
Oh, Christ.
Kurt Angle is here to wrestle.
Oh, Christ. Oh, God.
Kurt Angle goes to the ring.
Oh.
One right hand to Marko Stunt, and down he goes.
Oh,
he picks him up. German suplex. Another German suplex. A third German suplex. He waits for Marko Stunt to get to his feet. He picks him up. Angle slams to the roar of the crowd. Angle takes off the straps, hits the leg of Marko Stunt. Ankle lock. Marko Stunt taps out.
And Kurt just leaves it on.
Our general manager.
You have to, and Kurt just leaves it on and just wrenches and does that extra wrench, breaks his leg.
He leaves it on for several minutes.
Yep.
Finally, he lets go. He grabs the microphone and says to Marko Stunt, and that will be strike 3. By the way, Marko, I want to thank you for taking all of that with a camera, because I just turned it over to the San Jose Police Department. And you want to know what they found? They found trespassing. They found extortion. They found illegal use of photography. I believe that would be several arrestable offenses, don't you think? Boys, if you would please come out real quickly. and a couple of police officers arrive on the scene. They put Marko Stunt in handcuffs, and he's being arrested.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to serve. It's going to be really hard to serve time with a broken freaking ankle. Oh, it's true. It's damn true. I love this. I love everything about this. No more Marko Stunt. Kurt Angle being a goof, but in a good way. Not getting this dude out.
Marko Stunt was a pain in Kurt Angle's ass, so now Kurt Angle decided to take care of business himself.
I see what you mean when we were talking earlier in the show, or before the show started, you were saying that it sounds a little bit like you're kind of cheating. I don't consider this cheating. This was a great move, and probably the only way you really could have made this work as beautifully as the nonsensical, but makes so much sense way. This was mwah. This was great.
Why, thank you, my man.
Wow.
Now, we are going to be between the pre-show and the main show. I'm going to be sending you the match cards, so that way you can see the rest of the show.
Okay.
In the meantime, we have a little bit of a bumper here. Folks, would you like to advertise your product here? If you would, please get in contact with the Court Martial Podcast, and we will sponsor your item. Please send a charitable amount of money to the Court Martial Podcast, and we will have your airtime and your product here. Thank you.
Just get in touch with us first. Let's start with there, and we'll talk about the rest of the financial particulars later. But he's right. But he's right.
All right.
But it also depends on your project.
Exactly. Anyways, I have sent you the rest of the match cards, so now you'll be able to see the rest of the show without spoilers.
I almost don't even want to do that because I really enjoyed these first two matches of being completely in the dark. So I may not even open it because I'm enjoying very much just the being candid at the show with my ticket. I'm cheap,
Very
Sky.
well,
I didn't buy the program. I know that they serve it at the concession stand. I'm cheap, man. I didn't buy the program. I don't have the $15 to fork over.
All right. Anyways, then
I did buy the T-shirts.
Then we will continue with the main show. Are you ready, my man?
I'm ready.
All right. So we will begin the show with an NWA World Title match. We have our champion, the number 9 ranked contender, Keith Lee, versus Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis trying to get back his championship.
Which he lost last week.
Yep. Because Keith Lee and the New Day defeated the Wild Cards and Nick Aldis.
Yep.
In a title for title. So, this match is a solid 8-10 minute match. Keith Lee is working with an injured ankle because if you remember at the Heart Foundation Cup, he injured it. Nick Aldis tried to take advantage of this, doing several different leg locks and stomping on the leg, doing anything he can to injure Keith Lee's right leg. But Keith Lee is too strong. He's too powerful. He finally gets up. He picks up Nick Aldis for a power slam. He throws him against the corner turnbuckle and unloads with clotheslines and punches. Finally, he picks him up for the Spirit Bomb, Power Bomb. 1, 2, 3, Keith Lee retains.
Wow. Nick Aldis, man, his run has been so rough. I mean, it's kind of ironic. Nick Aldis deserves this, right? He deserves having this bunch of a run, considering how not seriously he took NWL's talent from the very first week, doing that little phased gauntlet match with all the dinks and disrespecting NWL. He deserved getting put in his place here.
In addition to cheating several times to make sure that Keith Lee couldn't get his championship. But when everything was on the line and everything was equal, Keith Lee took the title by force. And he wasn't able to get it back in a legitimate wrestling match.
You hate to see it.
You hate to see it. But Keith Lee has grabbed a microphone and he has a couple of words he wants to say. So he holds the NWA championship on his shoulder, and Keith Lee says that his leg hurts like hell, but he's glad that he was able to retain his championship. But he also realizes that he is not a National Wrestling Alliance wrestler. So it's not good for him to hold this championship when someone from that wrestling company could hold the championship and hold it to a standard that Nick Aldis pretended to hold it at. So therefore, effective immediately, he is vacating the National Wrestling Alliance World Championship. But Keith Lee says, don't you worry, because I'm going to be a champion soon enough. And it might be sooner than you think.
Okay.
So, and ultimately it makes sense, because while it's nice to have the National Wrestling Alliance World Championship in my company, it's not my company's title. Fair. So having it defended here, it doesn't really work.
I hear you.
And it's good for Keith Lee to give people from that company an opportunity, especially because Nick Aldis, being the heel that he is, cheating and doing whatever he can to keep his title when he doesn't deserve it.
Well, you know what's going to happen, Sky? Nick Aldis is going to just walk that belt right out of that building and be like, all right, well, he vacated it, so I never lost it. And I'm still the NWA World Champion.
No. In conversation with National Wrestling Alliance owner Billy Corgan, Nick Aldis is banned from fighting for the NWA title until a new champion is crowned.
Okay. Fair enough.
But that's their company and that's their storylines, and we're going to focus on the National Wrestling League storylines. Right. And we have another match. We have the Golden Lovers, Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi versus The Bar.
All right. Former ACPW talent, Cesaro and Sheamus.
Yep.
Now, are they Cesaro and Sheamus in NWL, or are they Claudio and Sheamus?
They are Cesaro and Sheamus.
Okay, just wanted to be sure.
And I don't know if you remember, but the Golden Lovers have not been on a good run.
No.
They've lost the wild cards. Yep. They lost in the Hart Foundation Cup.
Yep.
And this match, there is tension between those two, because when they're tagging together, they're not on the same page. Several times, Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega have Cesaro or Sheamus in their grasp, but then they tag themselves in with a backslap tag. And there's tension between those two. Sheamus and Cesaro take advantage of Kenny Omega in the ring, fighting with Kota Ibushi about who should be fighting. When Cesaro slams Kenny Omega into Kota Ibushi, and Kota Ibushi goes off the ring apron. And now Cesaro and Sheamus are just torturing Kenny Omega, doing everything to pound the living hell out of him. His back is being bruised, and he's turning from his pasty orange color to red color. After several minutes of abuse, finally Kenny Omega makes the tag to Kota Ibushi, who uses his powerful striking kicks to kick out Cesaro, and then he kicks Sheamus over and over. And Kota Ibushi is a house on fire. He picks up Cesaro to go for his finisher, the Golden Star Powerbomb. He hits the powerbomb, but he collapses to his ring corner because he's too exhausted. Finally, Kenny Omega tags himself in again, and it looks like he's setting up for a V-trigger, but Kota Ibushi grabs Kenny Omega and asks him what the hell he's doing. As both of these men are finally fighting against each other, Sheamus comes out of nowhere with a bro kick on both of them. And then Kenny Omega goes down. Sheamus with the cover. 1, 2, 3.
Trouble in paradise, it seems, for Mr. Omega.
Trouble in paradise.
And Mr. But not Kofi's trouble in paradise.
No.
But, yeah, he's coming up. But
he's in the main event.
See, wow, there you go. But, yeah, it's...
Spoiler alert.
I'm not surprised, honestly. I'm really not surprised that these two are finally coming to blows. So, and it seems like it's Omega's the one who's been taking liberties more so than Ibushi. Something to think about.
Yes. Because Kenny Omega has been acting more and more
upset.
Like he wants to win, but he wants the spotlight on him.
Sure.
He wants to be the one that gets the pin.
Yeah,
and
he does that.
Kota Ibushi just wants to work together. We will see what happens with those two gentlemen. But for now, we have an entrance from Adam Edge Copeland.
Edge has been, speaking of people having a rough go of it.
Oh, yes. And Adam Edge Copeland walks out in a jacket and jeans. He's not here to compete tonight. And Edge, he takes several minutes to think about what he's going to say. And he says the following. You know, when I came back, I was really hoping that I could do something special. See, I love this. I love this wrestling ring. I have always wanted to be a wrestler. I've always wanted to be the very, very best I could be. And this business has treated me very well over the years. And I'm grateful for every opportunity. But when I was forced to retire the first time by injury, I felt robbed. I felt like I couldn't do it anymore. But my beautiful wife, Beth Phoenix, and my beautiful daughters, Lyric and Ruby, inspired me. And I worked hard. I worked hard, my ass off, to train every single day to get in wrestling shape, to come back and be the great wrestler, Edge. And I came back, but I can't keep it anymore. These guys are all younger than me. They're faster than me. They're stronger than me. It just doesn't seem like it's fair. But then again, life isn't fair. And sometimes time has come for us all. So I'm here today to announce that I'm retiring from professional wrestling once again. I feel like I've done the best I can, but I don't feel like I can be competitive anymore. And when it's time to walk away, it's time to walk away. Thank you, everybody.
Sad.
It is very sad.
But I also think that it's been, it's tough, but you kind of understand his reasoning here. Like, it's definitely something where people really would feel that. But they would also respect it for the fact that he's doing it now on his own terms.
Exactly. So Edge puts down the microphone and waves to the fans, and the music for Seth Rollins hits. And Seth Rollins walks down to the ring with his Black Hand, Buddy Murphy, and Wesley Blake behind him. And Seth Rollins, contemplative, looking at Edge and says, Adam, I respect you, man. You're one of my idols when I was growing up. Well, who are one of the people I wanted to be in this business? And I truly am saddened. I'm heartbroken by the fact that you want to retire. Because I feel that I can help you. I am the Messiah of professional wrestling. And I can heal the broken bones of your body. And I can heal the damaged muscles of your soul. Give me an opportunity, and together we can do amazing things. Rollins holds out his right hand with the black glove on it, looking for a handshake. Edge is confused. He's questioning himself. He sticks out his hand, and he's almost at the point where he touches it, but then he backs away for a second, still unsure. Rollins looks at Edge and says one more time, think about your daughters, Lyric and Ruby. Think about what they would do for you, and think about what I can do for them. At this, Edge snaps. He grabs the microphone that he dropped, and he tells Seth Rollins, listen here, you arrogant son of a bitch. Don't you ever mention my daughter's name again. As far as I'm concerned, you can take your offer and shove it. I will never join the Black Hand, and I'll never be one of your pawns like those two are. And Rollins, from a happy face to an angry face, seething at Edge. These two are mere inches from each other. But then Seth Rollins starts smiling again. He backs up a couple of steps, and he says, very well. If you will not be my pawn, then you will be my enemy. Get him. At this, Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake start attacking Edge, and Edge is being double-teamed, 2-on-1. But Edge gets some separation. He pushes off Wesley Blake, and then he pushes off Buddy Murphy. He goes off the ropes, spear to Wesley Blake, and then Buddy Murphy tries to swing for a punch. Edge ducks it, goes off the ropes again, a spear to Buddy Murphy, but Seth Rollins hits the stomp on Edge, and Seth Rollins takes advantage of another situation. He grabs the microphone and says one last time, I will destroy you. A lot to contemplate there, huh?
I pose a question to you, not as a means of saying that what you did was not successful, but I pose a question to you. Is this a little too aggro too quick? The only reason I say, I understand we only have 3 weeks left, right? So you got to kind of push this, especially because next month is Wrestle Festival. But allow me to shoot spitball here for a second. I love the idea of Seth trying to get into Edge's head. If only we had more time for this, it would really be cool for Seth to be like, it's okay, you don't have to worry about giving me an answer right now. All I want you to do is think about it. The next week, you're going to be here, I'm going to be here. And I'm going to extend my hand again when he pulls his hand back the first time. And he goes, it's okay, I understand. It's a lot to talk about. But next week, I'm going to extend my hand again, and I'm going to need an answer. And then they leave, and then all of what you just said for this segment, you put into next week. I know you can't.
You've hit the crux of my issue, is that I have to do a 2-in-1 because next show is my biggest show.
Yeah. It's almost a shame that we couldn't have extended this further.
Because it would have given me more time to flesh things out,
yeah.
Especially if I could do TV too. Remember, people, I'm booking for the sake of doing a monthly show.
Right.
There is the concept that there are TV and there's stuff happening in between the shows.
Right.
And I would gladly put this on like 1 segment of TV and then 2 segments of TV. But it's so difficult because I have so much I want to get through.
Yeah, and I guess that's me being like booking week to week, thinking, oh, you set this up for that later, forgetting that your format is pay-per-view segments. But still, I like this. I like everything where it's going. I like the confusion. I like the dynamic that they have. It's just a shame that it had to kind of be spark notes into this one segment. But I love this idea.
Why, thank you. And this is a dream match for many people. Many people have wanted to see Edge versus Seth Rollins.
I think so.
Now we're going to get it.
Yeah, I hope we do get it.
Well, you want to know what you're also going to get?
These hands?
No.
All right, good. I was afraid that you may have made a surprise draft there, and I was going to get upset.
Right. No, I have an NWL International title match.
Okay, that's way more exciting.
We have Andrade seeing Almas.
Yes.
An angry man, and he's going up against the man that he defeated at the Hart Foundation Cup, Zack Ryder.
Okay.
And Andrade's making his entrance for this match, and there's a little picture-in-picture interview with Andrade, and Andrade speaks in Spanish, but there are subtitles. In the subtitles, they read, at the Hart Foundation Cup, I was not the weakness of my team. The weakness of my team was Grand Metalik and Kalisto, and I cut those fat loose. At the end of the day, I am Andrade Cien Almas, and I'm going to prove why I am 100%.
Okay.
The little explanation for why Grand Metalik and Kalisto are no longer on the roster.
Right.
Because Andrade felt like they were fat.
Yes. Well, you had to trim the fat sometimes, as we saw last month.
Yep. So, with that in mind, this is a very short match. Andrade is in control for most of it, and Zack Ryder cannot get out of the blocks. Finally, he gets an opening when Andrade tries to charge him into the corner, but he misses. And then Zack Ryder goes into the corner, hits a clothesline, goes back to the other side of the ring, runs back for another clothesline, does it one more time for a third clothesline, Andrade goes down to the ground. Zack Ryder goes back. He goes for the woo boots. He hits the broski boots, and then he sets him up for the Rough Rider. He goes for it, but Andrade turns it into a flapjack. Down goes Zack Ryder to the mat, and then the hammerlock DDT. 1, 2, 3.
And that's it.
And that's it.
Well, I think that Andrade needed this, particularly for the fact that, after winning the title, he needs those little extra, those extra defenses, and you need to build up. Even when you're champion, it helps to build up champion credibility by having some matches that you retain your belt over, even if it's kind of obvious that you're gonna retain that belt. Not saying that Zack Ryder couldn't have won this match, but given the direction that you've really taken the entire show, you can kind of expect that he probably wouldn't have. But that's okay. I think that's fine for this kind of show, especially leading into Wrestle Festival, your biggest pay-per-view of the year.
Right, and as much as I like Zack Ryder, I have not established him as being a mid-card champion.
Right.
That's not his role in this company.
Right.
His role is to be a guy who can pop up and every once in a while can get a surprise victory, but otherwise he's just going to be the guy who loses to other guys to make them bigger stars.
Right. Got it.
Now, Andrade is celebrating in the ring, and the music for one Keith Lee hits. And Keith Lee comes out to the ring, and Keith Lee looks at Andrade and says, maybe you've walked with a championship belt, but you ain't a champion. As far as I'm concerned, all you are is a coward. You attacked Daniel Bryan when the odds were against you. You used numbers to get your advantage, and when you didn't need the numbers anymore, you got rid of them. As far as I'm concerned, you a paper champion, and you are nothing compared to the Limitless One. But hey, prove me wrong. Step up to me right now, and let's see who's the best. Andrade looks angry at Keith Lee, and he grabs the microphone and says, I don't need to prove anything to you. I am the international champion, and as far as I'm concerned, you are nothing. He goes to leave, and as Andrade's leaving, Keith Lee says, yeah, keep talking, but that championship will be mine. Just you wait.
Okay. Well, Keith Lee obviously has his sights set on a different belt, and did Andrade just forget that he relinquished the title like not an hour and a half earlier?
Well, here's the thing. Now we know what Keith Lee meant by him relinquishing the title but wanting to be champion soon enough.
Yes.
So he has his eyes set on the National Wrestling League International Championship, which makes sense because it's a championship in his company.
Which does make more sense. But when Andrade, I know Andrade's being a heel, but when Andrade says, "Man, you're
Andrade
nothing,"
didn't relinquish the title.
It's like, it's an interesting dynamic. I think, especially because it's a forfeit of a title rather than ever losing it. So,
I mean, it makes sense for Keith Lee that he doesn't want to hold back other people and other companies.
Right.
But it also makes sense that he wants to prove that he is a champion and prove that other guys are just cowards and weak ones compared to the Limitless One.
Well, and it's not like Keith Lee wasn't a champion earlier in the night, even. He defended his title that night and gave it up anyway. So it's not like he lost the belt. So yes, Keith Lee is obviously championship caliber. That's just why it makes sense that he could just plop himself right into this mid-card title picture and nobody bat an eye about it.
Right. Plus, I'm also making the implication that the NWA World title is just a mid-card championship in my promotion, which it is.
It is. It is. But
especially because I've been booking this all this like crap.
Well, it's like I was telling you before the show. Sometimes you have too much talent that you know what to do with.
Right, and that's one of the things that, in hindsight, I realize is that as much as I wanted to put Nick Aldis in the world title picture for my company, I just couldn't do it.
Didn't have the space.
So the idea I had was he has his own championship. Why not make him pretend that his championship is a main event title and everyone around him is nothing because he holds his own championship. He doesn't need the world title.
Yeah.
It's kind of like with Jeff Jarrett when he had the Mexican World Championship, like from CMLL, and then he went back to TNA. I'm like, hey, I'm a champion. Look at me. I'm a champion.
And then he lost to Jeff Hardy 3 times in one of the most forgettable pay-per-view series in history. Oh, God damn, I love you, Jarrett. I really do. You're a piece of work, and that makes me enjoy every bit of you.
Yeah.
What a time! Anyways, what a time to be a TNA fan. was
oh yeah
2012 and 2013. Hogan's around, Immortal's gone. You got aces and eights running around. Oh, it's a blast.
And then Jeff Jarrett and Karen Angle.
Abyss won the X Division Championship. Yeah.
TNA is just a bunch of weird.
What a time. What a time. You gotta love it. It's the redheaded stepchild of wrestling promotions, but that's why we love it.
Yep. Anyway. But now we're going to get into the more serious stuff because we are almost at the back half of the show.
All right.
We have two really good matches in the NWL 2-5 #1 contender tournaments.
Yep.
And we will start with AJ Phenomenal Styles, the #3 ranked contender, versus Daniel the American Dragon Bryan, #4.
This should be fantastic.
These boys go 20 minutes.
Nice.
It is hold for hold. These guys are near equals with each other. And I've seen their stuff before when they wrestle each other. I have to say, every time it's just fantastic.
Oh, they're great.
The climax for this match sees AJ Styles setting up for the phenomenal forearm. He goes for the forearm, but Daniel Bryan gets out of the way and gets him into the Lavelle lock. And AJ tries to get to the ropes. He finally reaches the ropes. Daniel Bryan gets up. He's about to go for the yes kicks. He goes for the kicks, but AJ Styles does a splash from the ropes. And then he sets up for the Styles Clash. As he goes for the Styles Clash, Daniel Bryan reverses it back into the Lavelle lock. AJ has nowhere to go. He taps out.
Wow.
The way Daniel Bryan was able to reverse it was that as AJ went for the move, Daniel Bryan twisted himself so that AJ wouldn't land cleanly, and Daniel was able to grab the leg, and then after he hooked the leg, he grabbed AJ into the Lavelle lock proper, and that's when he got the tap.
Wow. That's pretty intense to have AJ Styles tap to Daniel Bryan. But it also shows that Daniel Bryan still moved on to bigger and better things despite the fact that Andrade was a lowly and unsavory heel.
It just shows that Daniel Bryan is at another level. Like, these four guys who are in this tournament, they are all world title contenders.
Yes.
As much as I liked Andrade, he was a mid-card champion, and he tried his best to get into that picture. But you're talking about four of the best wrestlers in the business.
Yeah.
And two of them.
Yeah, and it's not even Andrade's fault. It's not even Andrade's fault. But even like breaking kayfabe here, I would consider Andrade that same level as well in actual the way that WWE presents him, but also just in general. He's a great talent, but I would not put him in a main event scene in modern wrestling today myself.
At least not yet.
Yeah.
He has that potential.
Yeah.
He has that potential, but he has things that he needs to work on. Mainly, he needs to be able to speak English.
Or at least have somebody to help him with that. But they're going to break that up because that's a good idea. Let's
they already did break them up.
I know. I don't want to talk about it. Let's move on.
Sure. So Daniel Bryan will be moving on, and he will face either the winner of Jon Moxley and Kevin Owens. And this match is not a long one. And the reason why is that Kevin Owens is a brutal man. He brutalizes Jon Moxley from the start. And he takes the tactic that Jon Moxley has. Kevin Owens throws Jon Moxley outside the ring, and then takes him and continuously throws him around at ringside against the steel barricade, against the announce table, against the ring post. He gets him back into the ring and starts grinding on him. Jon Moxley tries to get a second win, goes for a clothesline, tries to hit the Paradise Shift DDT, but Kevin Owens is too strong. He pushes Jon Moxley off. Moxley off the ropes for a rebound clothesline, but Kevin Owens picks him up for the pop-up powerbomb. 1, 2, 3.
I like this a lot. Not because I have anything against Moxley, but for the fact that, this Kevin Owens is what got Kevin Owens over in NXT. Turning him into the cartoony guy, I mean, yes, Kevin Owens is a tremendous promo, and he's so entertaining, and he's fun to watch, and he's fun to listen to, but the unhinged, behaves like an unhinged bully child is a perfect gimmick for him, and it's a perfect way to take somebody who also has that kind of gimmick and pretty much just put them in their place. I really like this and the way that this was done.
I do too. I missed prize fighter Kevin Owens.
Yeah, me too.
That was his best character.
Me too.
So, Kevin Owens is upgraded to number 2 ranking, and he will be facing number 3 ranked Daniel Bryan at the next show. The winner of that match will be the number 1 contender for either Roman Reigns or Drew McIntyre.
That should be fun.
And Jon Moxley and AJ Styles, they're not going to be left off the card either, because they're going to be competing in a loser versus loser match. They'll be competing for the number 4 ranking.
Okay. Alrighty then.
Which makes sense because these guys just lost, but now we have to determine where they fall in the pecking order.
Right.
So now we're going to move on to the NWL Women's Championship match, which is the co-main event. We have our women's champion, Charlotte Flair, versus Thunder Rosa.
Sky, I have a thought here. First of all, it's great to see Thunder Rosa getting the spotlight against Charlotte Flair, but I have a suspicion I know what the finish is going to be.
Tell me what that finish is.
Might it be Charlotte wins, LOL?
Yes, it is.
Ah, wow. I don't know how I came up with that. It's, yeah. But this would be, I mean, if this was given 20 minutes, this would be a barn burner. And I think,
oh, no doubt.
And I think Thunder Rosa would actually get over more, even in defeat, against Charlotte in this particular instance. People would look at Thunder Rosa and go, yes, that is a quality female wrestler, after working with somebody like Charlotte. This would benefit both of them.
No doubt. But if you notice, the Queen has had not necessarily easy victories, but she has breezed through a lot of opponents, except for Toni Storm, who unfortunately is still injured and selling the effects of the figure 8 leg lock.
Right. Well, there's still more to come. We got 2 more weeks, and we got a major show, and Charlotte's going to need an opponent.
Yes, she will. Hell, I might just throw the whole division at her and see what happens.
Oh, jeez. Everyone against Charlotte. Whoever pins her gets it.
Yep.
God.
But let's get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we'll wait until next month to get that reveal.
We have our 6-man tag main event. The New Day and Drew McIntyre versus the Hart Foundation Cup winners, the Samoan Bloodline.
Okay.
Roman Reigns and the Usos.
6-man tag finish. Interesting. Interesting.
With this on the line, the winning team will decide the stipulations for their matches at Wrestle Festival.
Okay.
So this is putting some stakes on this 6-man tag.
There's something on the line. I dig it.
And you know how normally in 6-man tags they have the 2 biggest stars not face each other at the beginning?
Yes.
No, we're not doing that here. Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre both start off this match.
Wow. That's a statement.
Stare at each other in the eyes, waiting for the first man to flinch. Drew McIntyre goes for his glass-style kiss headbutt, but Roman Reigns blocks it. And then these two start throwing haymakers at each other. Right punch, right punch, right punch, right punch. This goes on for a good minute. Finally, they throw one last punch at each other, and they fall back into their respective corners. And these 2 heavy hitters just realize that they're pretty much equal. Kofi Kingston tags in to Drew McIntyre. Roman Reigns tags out to Jey Uso. But these two men are not done yet. In the meantime, we have Jey Uso and Kofi Kingston go at it, and these two are unloading on each other. And then Jimmy Uso and Big E tag in, and they're unloading on each other. At some point, all 6 men get into the ring, and they're starting to throw punches at each other. And the referee can barely control it. He finally gets some control when all 5 of the men go outside, except for Kofi Kingston, who goes off the ropes and hits a dive to the outside, splashing onto everybody. Kofi Kingston is left standing amongst a heap of bodies. He throws the legal man, Jey Uso, into the ring. As he's getting into the ring, Jimmy Uso takes advantage and hits a nice super kick on Kofi Kingston as he was distracted. And this gives the Samoan Bloodline what they need. They start grinding down Kofi Kingston, taking out his foundation, taking out his support, punches, slams, continuous clotheslines. They're doing everything to grind down Kofi. Kofi desperately needs to make a tag. He tries several times to dive around and zip around his gut. But each time he gets walked up the path by either Jey Uso or Jimmy Uso. Finally, Kofi Kingston throws a punch at Jimmy Uso, who is on the apron, throws a punch at Roman Reigns, throws another punch at Jey Uso, does a tumbleweed jump. He tags in Drew McIntyre. Jey Uso tags in Roman Reigns, and Drew McIntyre is a house on fire, making his comeback with clothesline after clothesline. He throws punches at Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso, who are both on the apron. And Drew McIntyre picks up Roman Reigns for the spine buster. He's setting him up for the kick, the Claymore kick. As he's about to go for the kick, Jimmy and Jey Uso go into the ring, and they hit the double kicks onto Drew McIntyre. And then Big E gets into the ring, and he bullies out Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso to the outside. They're both on the apron now. Big E goes off the ropes and hits the spear through the ropes onto Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso, cleaning them out. It's just Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns inside the ring. Drew McIntyre, he's setting him up. He's setting him up for the Claymore kick. He goes for the kick, but Roman Reigns with the spear out of nowhere covers. 1, 2, 3, Roman Reigns and the Samoan Bloodline win.
Wow. The champ has been pinned 4 weeks before Wrestle Festival. That is huge.
Nobody has been able to beat Drew McIntyre, and Roman Reigns takes a little bit of an edge off of him.
Wow. Now it feels a little bit more believable that Drew might just lose this title.
And Roman Reigns and the Usos, they grab microphones. And Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso say, "New Day, when we take your championships, we're going to do it because the Usos are the best tag team in the National Wrestling League. And if you don't believe that, we're going to do it in our own structure, the Uso Penitentiary. We are going to do our tag team title match in Hell in a Cell."
Oh. Okay.
Because, as you all remember, New Day and Usos in Hell in a Cell is one of the best tag matches they've ever had.
Maybe we can get some juice this time and really make that match exciting.
Yep. And as for Roman Reigns, he looks at Drew McIntyre. And in 1 more month, I'm going to do the same thing to you what I did tonight. But I don't want this to be a fluke. I want to prove that I am the better man. So we're going to do this. 30 minutes. You and me, Iron Man match.
Down. I like that stipulation. Because it still lends itself to being a wrestling match. Which is what I was kind of I was nervous at first that like it was going to be something, a little more gimmicky. But I love the choice of Iron Man. It still makes it mean that it's athletic competition. It's still wrestling match. I dig that. Good stipulation choice. I'm pumped.
And the thing with this is that Roman Reigns just doesn't want to beat him once. He doesn't want this to be a fluke. He wants to prove that he is the better wrestler.
Oh, I dig this. I dig it. I love the stipulation. For a maintenance show, you've really set a lot up for next time, which I'm interested in seeing. There's a lot to unpack from this episode that is going to really successfully play into what next month and Wrestle Festival is going to be all about. But we got
full disclosure.
We got the secret angle out of it.
Here, let me break kayfabe for a second, if you will, please.
Yeah, your show's done. You can break kayfabe anytime you want.
I was gonna plan to have Kurt Angle kick Marko Stunt's ass at November in Wrestle Festival. That was always the plan.
Okay.
But I was gonna have something else. I was gonna have Hornswoggle and Marko Stunt tag together and wrestle against Bobby Lashley and Apollo Crews.
Oh, good God, man. Good God. I'm so glad that changed.
Yes, well, it had to change because of a certain picture that has been surfaced on the internet, which we'll not show here.
No, but we talked about it. We talked about it during the segment. But that actually happened, folks. That was an actual thing that actually happened. And we know two people who were there at that indie show.
Well, okay, to be fair, they didn't know that was going to happen. They were both kind of confused by it, too.
They're both responsible. I'm not. We are holding them accountable. You were there. You were accomplices.
Oh, come on. Oh, come on. One of them was getting married.
I kid.
One of them was getting married.
I know.
It wasn't his fault.
Shout out to both you, Trevor and Derek. I tease. I kid. But
the whole thing was Trevor was getting married that weekend, and it happened to be in Indiana because that's where his wife is from.
And for those of you who are keeping score at home, before we continue on that, Trevor is one of the proprietors of another YouTube channel called The Mag Nation, which is a EFED channel, which is how Josh Ageddon and Skyler and myself all became friends to begin with.
Right. And Derek is another mutual friend of all of ours.
Yes.
And Trevor happened to be in Indiana for those wrestling shows to get married. He was like, hey, you want to go see a wrestling show? We haven't seen that in 8 months. Sure. They didn't know they'd be seeing Marko Stunt suck a dick.
Well, now we know. Now we know. And knowing is half the battle. And unfortunately, that is not the best segue to lead into ACPW I've ever come up with. But
you got to do what you got to do.
But I got to do what I got to do. So welcome once again to Atlantic Coast Pro Wrestling. Week 5. I have no theme for this show. Although you're going to hear, it's really themed around one particular angle, but this could have gone better, but it's still going to set at least half of what's going on leading into December. We start.
Can I make a quick joke?
Yes.
Could the theme of this show be undisputed?
I would say it might be. But right now it is in dispute until you hear everything then. And then you can tell me whether it is undisputed or we have a battle on our hands.
All right.
But I appreciate the way you put that. So we start out by going to, as always, we go to Matt Striker and Taz, who bring us in. It's the perfect way to keep the show grounded just to get things started. And they announce that our main event tonight is going to be a Harvest Havoc rematch for the ACPW Tag Team Championships. Tonight, FTR will defend their belts against Outlaw Inc. because it was considered by Arn Anderson a little bit unfair based on the tape, given that Corny hit Outlaw Inc., specifically Homicide, with the tennis racket. And the tennis racket was enough for an Arn Anderson, who has had the tennis racket, taken it several times, decided that Outlaw Inc. deserves another shot. Now,
I would just like to point out the hypocritical nature of Arn Anderson, of all people, banning the tennis racket.
Oh, he didn't ban the tennis racket. He just saw the tennis racket and said, no, I'm not. They're going to get another shot because we saw what happened.
Considering that Arn Anderson used to work with the dirtiest player in the game.
Of course. Of course. But, you know, Arn's a changed man. You know, he's bigger now, and he's the bigger man. He's trying to be the bigger man, not just in the literal sense, literally and figuratively. Our opening match. Sorry, Art. I love it. Your opening match.
Damn it.
Is Pentagon Jr. going up one-on-one with Man Scout Jake Manning. As you could imagine, Zelina Vega, who is in Pentagon's corner, as you can imagine, this matchup does not take very long. It's about, I would say, like 5 to 7 minutes. It's a 10-minute time limit. Pentagon and Man Scout put a serviceable 7-minute match together. You know, Man Scout gets a good flurry to begin with. Pentagon knocks him down. It's the heat. Man Scout gets a little flurry comeback. And then finally, the finish of this match is a package pile driver. That's your lot. Not even any cheating taking place here. It was just more Pentagon Jr. But then after that, Zelina gets up on the apron, snaps her fingers again, and you know what that means? That means that we have a one-armed scout. Because Pentagon takes Man Scout Jake Manning's arm and wrenches it past the point of its socket and breaks Man Scout's arm in the same way he did Trevor Mann.
Aww.
It's a shame.
Hopefully Man Scout has his first aid badge.
And I hope so. You're gonna need a Z-Pack for that. And
whoa!
Too
we
soon?
do not talk about that in this
Too
house.
soon?
We do not talk
Too
about
soon?
That. Yes.
Anyway.
6 years too soon.
Anyway. All right, so in 2026, we'll be able to talk about it. And we'll probably still be doing this fantasy booking, too. So, here comes... So then, Zelina, who is the manager, has, pulled, practically, JR into the ring and tells JR, I need, give me the microphone, because she's not just going to take it, even though she can, because she is a manager and she technically has the rights to the microphone, but pulls JR in and says, and JR's like, oh, okay, well, Zelina, you've yanked me up and disturbed my tie in here, so I'm guessing you have something to say. So why don't you tell us what's on your mind? And Zelina says, okay, what you saw last week was a man taking charge of his life. You're seeing a man who has zero fear, cero miedo. There was a guy running his mouth. His name was Trevor Mann, who said that my client, Pentagon, couldn't cut it, couldn't hack it, couldn't handle what the pressures of ACPW was, that he had become a shell of his former self. And it took this man being in a dark place, and I was right by his side the whole time. And now, we're not messing around anymore. Now, I get to choose whose arms stay in their sockets and whose arms get taken from their sockets. And that is the name of the game. We don't stop until everyone realizes that tonight and from here on out, we have no fear about consequences. We have no fear about opponents. Pentagon Jr. is the man who will be the ACPW heavyweight champion. He will prove that not only does he have no fear, but he causes fear. And then that's it. And then Pentagon does his cero mierdo and they leave.
I feel bad for anyone's arm that gets caught by Pentagon Jr.
Well, Pentagon obviously took exception to Trevor Mann, who, by the way, they cut back to Stryker and Taz, and they mentioned, this is a good time to mention that, because Trevor Mann broke his arm, it's going to take at least 6 weeks for that to recover. So we will probably not be seeing more of him in the next 2 weeks because he's injured.
Aww.
A shame. It's a shame. But he broke the arm. And there used to be this thing in wrestling back in the day. It was called selling. and we're going to try and keep to that.
You don't get the...
Oh, just wait. Just wait. Because that's coming up next. Up next, actually, I tell a lie. Up next is a video package for the debuting Roderick Strong, who is one of our latest acquisitions, and it's a vignette just hyping up, Roddy's past. They mentioned the fact that he and Fish and O'Reilly and Cole were all friends, and they, there's a package saying like, yeah, we've toured the world together, we've traveled together, but this isn't about them. I'm excited to be here in ACPW to compete, and then it's revealed during this vignette that Roderick Strong will be debuting tonight in competition. So excited there because Roddy Strong. Just kind of as a side note here, I really did not care for Roddy Strong until he joined Undisputed Era, and you really got to see his personality show.
That was the consensus of a lot of people.
Yeah.
That. He was just a bland babyface who didn't have anything going for him. But once he joined the Undisputed Era and got the cockiness up to 11, he really shined.
Yeah, I really do think Triple H and all the guys in NXT really brought out the best in Roddy and found something in Roddy that had been sorely missing up to that point. And otherwise, I probably wouldn't have signed him if that had not happened. So,
blessing in disguise. Too is that the other members of the era are not particularly big guys.
No.
So Roderick Strong, who's not the biggest guy, but he is a decent head taller than the other guys, has a lot more muscle on him, really adds to that group.
Oh, he's easily the guy who's in the very best shape of all four of those guys. Bobby Fish is in good shape too, but really the guy who looks the best is Roddy Strong, and he's as strong as an ox. I mean, you see some of the guys that he lifts, and we'll get to that later. But and we'll see what Roddy can do a little bit. So up next,
but you must be really happy to have him.
I am happy to have him. I'm glad I was able to sneak him in. He was a great ACPW acquisition, hell of a talent, good worker, great look. I'm excited to have him on board. Up next, JR says, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one of the most decorated tag teams of all time, Matt and Jeff, the Hardys. And the Hardys come down to the ring, and everyone, they're obviously baby faces. Everyone's loving them. We are in, I believe, Pittsburgh, speaking of Kurt Angle, for this one. For whatever it's worth, because we're doing East Coast stuff. And anyway, so JR says, Matt and Jeff, you guys have had continued success. You guys have beaten the Briscoes. Obviously, in the tag titles, you came up a little bit short. And before JR is even able to finish, Matt takes the mic and says, all right, JR, look. I'm going to be honest with you here. We came here to compete, and we've had a great time competing. We've had people who've had exception to the way that we've been treated here. But as always, we fight back. As always, we come out on top. Not because of arrogance, not because we know we're the best and we exude cockiness, but because we do what we do. We defy death. I'm stronger than death. My brother's stronger than death, but there is something that has been bothering us of late. Because here's the situation. Jeff, break it down. And Jeff gets the mic and says, listen, there's been something going on here in ACPW. And that's the FTR have been running around for so long, too long, cheating in every match. Cornette gets involved. They use the low blow. They exploit the referee. These men have not won a single match clean. They've been running roughshod over ACPW. And my brother and I are pretty damn tired of watching these two joke around and disrespect the illicit, expressive sport that is professional wrestling. Don't forget anything. We're like a couple of elephants. We've been around a long time and we never forget. And we will not forget what happened on that debut episode of ACPW when you cheated us out of our tag team championships. So yeah, you got a title match tonight. And if you lose the titles, that's one thing. But if you keep those titles, we're coming at you, Jim. And we're coming at you, FTR. We're gaining those titles. And we're going to get back at you for screwing us out of what we rightfully deserve. And at that moment, Jim Cornette walks out onto the ramp. And he's doing the snooze thing. He's like, boys, you're putting me to sleep, man. This is so typical of all of these tag teams, the wannabes, the washed ups, the Johnny come latelys, and the Mary came too late, and the pre-ejaculatory Jimmies, but not me, because I don't do that. But you two, I'm getting sick of you two. If you guys want to fight people so hard, I just finished talking with Arn Anderson. I've got a tag team that's more your level, because you got to face it, gents. You're just not at the level of FTR. So why don't you face these two, and then we'll talk. But until then, have fun. And Jim leaves, referee comes out, and wouldn't you know who walks down the ramp? It is
down the ramp.
Matt and Nick Jackson. Out come the Young Bucks.
No, they ain't young anymore. They're just the Bucks.
So, though they're deliberately calling themselves the Young Bucks, even though they're in their 30s.
Cornette introduced them.
Now, if you recall, he didn't want anything to do with them. That's why he left. He's sick and he said, here, fight some guys who are more your speed, which is also Jim knocking the Bucks, which is also part of why I did this. Because he's knocking the Hardys and says, here, play with some kids who are more your speed. I'm getting the hell out of here to go with the wrestlers. So in the same stroke of the hand that he introduces the Bucks, he also pimp slaps them with it. So
he also pimp slaps the Hardys because he says the Hardys aren't the Bucks level.
That's right. So the Bucks come out super serial. Obviously, really, really serious. Wanting to make a fight. This one lasts 5 minutes. And the Hardys, this is not even a contest. Finally, the finish of this, the Bucks try to heal, but they do what the Bucks do. Jeff finally hits a swanton, and Matt hits a twist of fate at the same time. They cover both Bucks, 1, 2, 3. And the Hardys, they celebrate, but you could tell that they're still bothered by it. They're still upset that, like, this is not what we're here for. This was not a contest. So they're both upset. They haven't gotten their hands on FTR. They have the right to be upset with the way that they got screwed out of the titles 4 weeks ago. And now they're being disrespected by having to play with 2 school children and wrestle 2 skilled school children who don't deserve that position in the first place.
I got nothing to say about the Bucks.
At least they got squashed, and I insulted them while it happened.
Yeah, although I'm not looking forward to the next AEW pay-per-view because I know they're going to be on it.
Yeah, but they only got well, with the Bucks only getting 5 minutes, they're only able to do like one of their big flips. Usually their matches are 40 minutes and they have everything under the sun. Not here. They're just getting beat here. Anyway,
you get one flip. You get one flip,
and that flip's going to be countered. So just know that is where you stand in the pecking order. Up next, I struggled with where I wanted to put this because this is a piece of a very intricate puzzle, and I didn't want this to feel like it wasn't as big as I'm trying to make it. So I'm a little upset that it ended up this low on the card, but I'm still going to make it work. Tony Schiavone is backstage with MJF. And Tony says, you know, I'm here with Maxwell, Jacob Friedman, and Max. You came out on top in a vicious street fight with Cody Rhodes last week. And your whole crusade was that you were exposing Cody for being selfish and thinking only about himself. So now that you've won this matchup, what's next for MJF? Have you proven your point? And MJF in the camera says, okay, I've said for many, many, many years that I've been in this business, which is all of 5, by the way, because they call me a prodigy. I don't know whether anybody has told you that, Tony, but I've been called a prodigy before. I truly believe that I proved my point against Cody Rhodes. That he really was in it for himself. And that he never cared about me at all. I mean, you saw how he busted me open. He made me bleed. He beat me and punched me. But at the end of the day, I was better than him too. Because the student is the master. Because that's what I do. But here's the thing. Cody is selfish, but I've had something of a revelation, Toni. You know what a revelation is? A revelation is where you have that big epiphany moment. I know you haven't had one since that other company in Atlanta closed down, but keep your chin up, mate.
Whoa, that's too far.
But here's my revelation. Toni, come on, stay with me, Toni. I need the microphone. Stay with me. Here's what I've determined. Cody is a selfish, self-centered, arrogant prick who only cares about himself. And I've realized, Toni, that I had this when I studied underneath him, I took that. I was a dick. I was only thinking about myself. And yes, obviously I'm here for my career. And it's all about my career and I want to excel in my career, but the last thing I want to do is make it seem like and make actions and take actions in the ring and elsewhere that contradict that narrative. I want to be somebody who can prove on his own that I'm better than them and they know it. So yes, I didn't mean to crack wise about that joke, Toni. You know I kid with you. But I am here to win gold. I am here to prove I'm better than everyone else. And I am here to do it on my own. I don't need to rely on gimmicks. I don't need to rely on cheating. All I need to rely on is my ability. And I'm going to do that from here on out. And if Cody wants to fight me again to prove that he isn't the prick he is, I'm going to be gracious enough to grant him another match. If he wants to fight, I'll fight, if that's what it takes. But I promise you, Cody, I'm doing it for me, and I'm not going to become what you are. Because I'm better than you, and I'm the bigger man than you, and you know it. Thoughts on the MJF promo?
The arrogance of MJF, believing that he can do it all on his own without having to break the rules or have help.
Well, but
bull crap.
But here's the thing, though. Is it in some way endearing that he openly admits, he even apologized to Toni, but that he openly admits that he doesn't want to be selfish the way that Cody's been selfish. And he wants to prove that he can do it on his own. It's a quality that with anybody else, one would deem admirable.
Yes, but do you believe for 1 second that MJF will keep true to his word?
I guess we're going to have to find out. This was an interesting promo from MJF. It almost feels like MJF might actually have... It's hard to trust him, but what if MJF here... Hear me out. What if MJF is telling the truth? What if MJF really does want to prove himself? Maybe next week, if he gets a match, because obviously December is when, if Cody accepts, the match will be in December. What if MJF next week proves that he's actually doing things legitimately? Do you trust MJF to do something like that?
Actions speak louder than words. I need to see it before I believe it.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, obviously because it's my show, but it's an interesting promo here because you don't know where he's headed. And I made a point not to mention, just kind of separating stuff. I made a point not to mention on the show WCW, mostly because I don't want to get sued.
Well, also because you're right.
Yes. And, MJF, MJF, he knows how to speak the truth. Anyway, so now we move on from...
Speaking of the truth, our truth.
From MJF, no. we already found the truth. We're putting him back. Putting him back in the deck. We're going to shuffle that one up, and we'll bring him out another time. Perhaps... Anyway, so then MJF comes back. We go back to Stryker and Taz for a little bit, and they kind of talk over basically what we just talked about. You know, Taz being like, you know, pretty much Stryker being skeptical, but Taz being like, hey, well, you know, maybe, you know, you don't know what's going on with MJF. Maybe he's right about Cody, and maybe he doesn't want to be like him. You know, who knows? You know, so this little dialogue back and forth is enough to kind of get us some time, because we're going back to Toni Schiavone. But it is in the anticipation, because they say, well, it's time for Roderick Strong to make his debut, but I hear we're actually going to hear from him, so we're going to take you back to Toni Schiavone with Roderick Strong. So Toni comes back, and Toni says, thank you, I'm here with Roderick Strong. Roddy, of course, your matchup next, your very first match in ACPW, how does it feel? And I, you know, it says, well, this was a great opportunity. I've been many places, but ACPW seems like a place where a man can really make a name for himself, and I'm really happy to be here. But moreover, I'm happy that I get to compete against the best that ACPW has to offer. And I'm excited for what ACPW has to offer. And no matter who comes my way, I will accept any check. And right as he's saying that, two guys walk into frame. And that would be Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly.
Oh boy, here we go.
And immediately, Fish and O'Reilly, you know, there's like a little bit of tension, but then Fish and O'Reilly just smile, and there's hugs all around. It's O'Reilly hugs Strong, Fish hugs O'Reilly, like, how are you guys? Even O'Reilly and Fish hug each other, like, hey, we're all together. It's a big, exciting moment. They're all happy to see each other. You know, it's like, Roddy, oh, we're so great that we're happy you're here. And of course, the vignette earlier would have explained that these guys worked together and had been around together, which is why this ended up happening. So they talk about this, and you know, oh, it's great to see you. Oh, man, we're so happy you're here. And then Roddy goes, where's Adam? And there's this exact silence. And O'Reilly and Fish are like, he's not here tonight, man. He's with his girl. And Roddy's like, and you could tell Fish is like kind of like you could tell Fish is really upset, like almost angry upset. And Roddy's like, what? There's something I should know about? He's like, is everything okay with you guys? And Fish is like, listen, Roddy, you got a match. You got a match coming up right now. You need to stay focused. Focus on your match. We'll talk later, all right? It was great to see you, man. It's going to be fun being all together here again. And Roddy's like, all right, cool. And there's like this really awkward hug, and then Roddy's like, and Fish and O'Reilly are like, go get him, man. Go take him out. So an awkward moment here with Toni Schiavone.
Apparently the name Adam Cole brings back a lot of emotions.
Well, and if you recall what happened last time in the tag match with DIY and Fish and O'Reilly, Britt Baker got a chair to the skull as a result of Adam Cole ducking, and when finally there was enough anger and there was the finish of the promo. If you want to hear all of that, feel free to check out the last ACPW versus NWL match video that we did last month. It's on the channel. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to undisputedly hit that bell button as hard as you possibly can. And now...
subscribe the system.
That's right. That's right. CMP, Roddy Strong versus... And I had to do this because I needed somebody that this was going to be a quick match for. Roderick Strong versus Orange Cassidy. Now, if you recall, Orange Cassidy has only been in, I think, one match prior to this, and he did the one-word responses to JR, who was very frustrated. Of course, this is a guy whose father forced him into ACPW to try and teach him some discipline and try and get him fired up and inspired, and it has not worked up to this point. This match goes all of 5 or 6 minutes, pretty much the same idea, and Roderick Strong finishes. It's a competitive match, kind of, but Roddy pretty much controls it the whole way, and then finishes with his strongman's backbreaker. And that's the match.
I have a question for you.
I have an answer.
How long for the hands in the pockets?
No, there is no hands in the pockets. He has the hands in the pockets to start the match, but that is not like a full-fledged gimmick.
So he doesn't do a clothesline with his shoulder, but
no, he doesn't. He wrestles like a goddamn actual wrestler. The only time his hands are in his pockets is when he's doing a taunt. So if he's doing it at the beginning, or when he pulls it, he pulls him out to start, gets a collar and elbow tie up, it's actual wrestling. But then if OC gets the advantage over Roddy, with a hip toss or something, then he can do the big hands up and then the hands in the pockets thing as a heel thing, as an arrogant, like, I don't care about any of this. But no, he's not hitting the ropes with his hands in he's not doing any moves with his hands in his goddamn pockets.
All right.
It is for gimmick only, because this is ACPW, and if he's going to be on the roster, he's going to play by my rules.
Lay down the law.
That's right. So Roddy gets a big win. Now, here's something extremely important. So I want everybody to remember this, and I will recap this when it actually comes to pass and why this is an important setup. Roderick Strong is still celebrating in the ring after his win. He's got a big win, and while this is going on, and while Roddy is celebrating while he's still in the ring, Matt Striker and Taz say, well, now we are at the point. Our next match actually involves somebody who's very close to Roddy. Our next match is Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly in action. But before we get to them, we got to take you back to what happened last week with Britt Baker, Adam Cole at Harvest Havoc, and what happened, the implosion of wrestling's finest. So while Roderick Strong is still in the ring, we cut to the replay. We do not see Roderick Strong for the rest of the show. So this
really
is correct. But the important part of this is that Roderick Strong is still in the ring when the video package airs. Keep this in mind. This will be important later.
Got you.
So we see the whole thing, what goes on with them. When we cut back to the ring, Roddy has left, so he's out, and out come Fish and O'Reilly, who are obviously very arrogant and they're happy to do this thing. And O'Reilly is we haven't seen these two really get a matchup that doesn't involve DIY, and they're going up against Hanson and Rowe. The two guys who have had tremendous success here in ACPW.
Sure.
And but this match goes 15 minutes out of their total 20. This is the best showing that Hanson and Rowe have had up to this point. In fact, it looks like for a moment, or two, or three, that Fish and O'Reilly might just give up the win to Hanson and Rowe. It's the best looking they've been up to this point. Big comeback, great. It's great. It's a great contest. This is how the finish goes. O'Reilly gets pushed into the corner by Rowe, who has the advantage, but there's and Rowe's kind of laying it in. O'Reilly is back towards Rowe. So the chest of O'Reilly is in the turnbuckle. You with me?
I'm with you.
And he's clubbing his back, and he's clubbing the back, and he's clubbing the back. And as that happens, Bobby Fish is now outside the ring, and wouldn't you know what he's trying to grab? Gets a steel chair as he goes to bring it into the ring, as Hansen has been disposed of. But the referee sees the chair, takes the chair, and obviously now is taking the time to take the chair and throw it. And it's at that time that O'Reilly low blows, a la Ric Flair, the ref, a low blows Rowe, and then we get a move that I don't think I've ever seen them do, but I'd really like to see them as a finish. It's basically Bobby Fish gets him up, gets a Rowe into basically like a perfect plex or a fisherman suplex, which is why I came up with this. And O'Reilly basically gets down onto the mat and lifts his knees up, so it's like a fisherman backstabber. And
oh, God.
Yeah. And they do this double team, this fisherman backstabber cover, 1, 2, 3. Fish and O'Reilly have won, but it was, of course, with the referee distraction and the low blow, which the ref didn't see. So it was still a skeevy victory, and it deprives Hansen and Rowe of yet another victory.
Of course, we would expect wrestling's finest to be clean and nice and always follow the rules.
Well, we've seen that Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly have no interest in turning that new leaf, as was what Adam Cole was trying to do with them to begin with. You know,
they make a tire change of spots.
Yeah, well, apparently not. And speaking of Adam Cole, after this match, we go to Stryker and Taz, who say, oh, ladies and gentlemen, I know this is a lot of wrestling's finest right now, but it's good. We need to keep you updated on the situation. We showed you the clip earlier. Britt Baker's condition. Well, it's probably going to be better if we just show you. So we have this pre-tape. Adam Cole has been home with Britt Baker since Britt Baker has suffered the chair shot, but he took time out to come and sit with JR and talk about what's been going on with him. So let's cut to that tape now. So it's kind of like the WoW JR and Cody had their one-on-one. JR now is sitting one-on-one with Adam Cole, and Jim says, Adam, listen, I have a lot of respect for you and what you've done and where you are, and obviously this can't be easy for you to be sitting across from me and talking about any of this. But I think the people need to know, the ACPW fans need to know, first of all, what is Britt Baker's condition? And Adam Cole says, well, JR, we brought her right to the hospital after that happened, and they ran the diagnostics, they went through the concussion protocol, and she does have a concussion. It is stage 2. So thankfully, it was not as bad as it could have been, but she's still having a hard time with stuff. And JR, I haven't left her side. I couldn't leave her side. There's no way I could leave her side. I've been there every step of the way. She is getting better, but there's no timetable for her to come back. We're gonna take it day by day. And JR says, well, Adam, this is, obviously a tough situation. The way that everything went down, as far as the chair, taking the chair, and the pinfall, and then the drop kick, and then of course O'Reilly swinging the chair at you and you ducking. What do you feel about this whole circumstance, about the situation at hand? And Adam Cole says, well, Jim, I won't lie to you and say that I didn't feel, for the first few days, I was really at odds with myself because, I'm the one who ducked. I felt responsible, it's my job to be there for my wife when she needs me, and I wasn't there for her, and the first few days I was really blaming myself, but the more I watched the tape, the more I thought about it, the more angry I got. Not at me, but at these two guys who I trusted, my brothers. We were practically blood. JR was myself and Bobby and Kyle. We traveled everywhere together. Every single company we were in, we were tight. We were the best. We were wrestling's finest. But because I wanted to change things up, because I wanted us to be the admirable men, I wanted us to be the wrestlers that we always purported to be, that we always knew we were, but without having to rely on being underhanded. I wanted us to revive our reputation, but instead, neither of them believed in that brotherhood. I realize now, JR, that neither of them cared about the brotherhood that we had together. What they cared about was titles. What they cared about was winning. What they cared about was them. I heard what they said about Britt, that Britt was the one who was changing my mind. Well, let me tell you something, JR. It doesn't take a fair woman's hand, and she is the fairest of women, to know what's right, to start to believe that you don't have to resort to what you have to resort to. And now, I don't care what I do. Because let me tell you, JR, I don't care what it's going to take. I don't care where I'm going to have to do it. But Bobby, Kyle, I'm coming for you. You don't lay hands on a man's wife and live to tell the tale. You much less take a steel chair to her skull, give her a concussion, and threaten her life in front of the man who loves her. You have crossed a line that you will never be able to uncross. And mark my words, I don't care whether I do it alone, whether somebody's with me, or whether I fall on the sword myself. I will bleed, I will sweat, I will cry, I will pass out, I will die before I rest, because I will destroy the two of you. You only cared about yourself, and now the piper's coming for his pay. And mark my words, I don't care where it's got to be, I don't care when it's got to be, but your days are numbered.
First off, that was a fantastic promo.
Thank you.
That may be your best promo ever.
Thank you.
Now, second, you want to know what that had me thinking? You've done it now. You've gone and made a big mistake. And I can't allow you to think you just walk away. So turn around.
That would be...
and face the piper you're gonna take. Because the end is now. This is gonna be your Judgment Day.
We already did Judgment Day. NWL, get out of here. We already did Judgment Day. That already had... That was earlier in the show.
Yes, and I wanted to open the show up with that song, but I didn't think it would work, so I decided, nah,
well,
this is perfect.
Well, what a time to throw it in.
But no, that was a fantastic promo. Adam Cole is coming. He's a man on a mission. And it's going to be interesting what happens with Roddy Strong, because he doesn't know that Adam Cole has this beef with Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to unpack here, and you couldn't see this, and you can't at home see this. When I cut that promo, I was literally staring dead stare into my webcam, and that's pretty much how I expect Adam Cole would do this. It would be straight into the camera, looking directly at at Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, theoretically, through that really intense promo. And,
right, because whenever Adam Cole gets intense, his eyes go big, he looks dead into the camera, and he is serious all time.
Yeah, and
I have to give the credit to you on this one. That was a great promo.
Yeah, this would be exactly how, if I were in this position, I would think that would probably be how I'd feel. If I had two guys who I loved, and then they took a steel chair to my wife, I think I would probably not. I would take exception to that. So this Adam Cole obviously not here because he's with his wife, and JR says, "Well, Adam, thank you very much. Give Britt our best. Obviously, we're all with her. We're all wishing her a speedy recovery, and and thank you for doing this sit-down interview. We wish you the best. And Adam Cole, was like, thank you, JR. And that's the vignette. That's the whole promo. And that pretty much wraps up our Wrestling Finest segment of the show. So
the thing though is that as much as it was a heavy Wrestling Finest show, it's still good to see them because all four of those guys are so talented and they deserve the opportunity to tell that kind of story.
Oh yeah. And I think the idea of having these guys having these matches interspersed in between too, so it's not just promos and it's blending matches to keep these guys strong so you're still invested in their wrestling, so it's not just soap opera.
Right.
So
the other thing too is that you have to have other stuff from other parts of the show break it up, like the MJF interview.
Yes.
Because otherwise, then you just get all of it back together.
Exactly. So, and with that said, we're now moving on to our second to last match. Only 6 matches on the show. This is Jim Cornette and Jeff Cobb come down to the ring, and Cornette, Cornette obviously just takes the mic from JR. It's like, JR, just sit down. No disrespect, just sit down. I've been here and I've been waiting, and I've been saying it from day one, that my man, the Hawaiian Lion, Jeff Cobb, the most dominant man in all of ACPW, is here. And he is ready for what is rightfully his, what he should have had from the beginning. Because he was screwed out by management of being in that ACPW Heavyweight Championship tournament. So what he had to do is he had to have targets. He had to prove by demolishing big man after big man after big man after big man and a really annoying Titus O'Neil. He had to beat everybody in his path. So finally, can somebody, for the love of God, please just give this man a title shot? I'm tired of waiting. Arn Anderson, get out here right now. It is time to get this done. We want this title shot. We deserve this title shot. And we're not leaving this ring until we get a title shot. So get out here and make it happen. So Arn Anderson walks out. And Arn says, Jim, there's no denying that Jeff Cobb is worthy of a title shot. Because as you said, he's been the one who's, for many, many weeks now, has been destroying our competition. He is the man worthy of a title shot. There's no disputing that. But what he's going to have to do first is atone for his actions. Because there's a man who came to me the other day, and he said he's ready, and he wants a piece of Jeff Cobb. You beat this man, then I'll hand you Brian Cage and the Heavyweight Championship match on a silver platter, and you can get Brian Cage come Winter Warcraft in December. So in 2 weeks from now, you'll get that match. But you got to beat this man. You got to beat your past. All you hear next is,
oh, no.
Out comes Glenn Jacobs.
Oh.
But he's not dressed up in the Diesel gear this time. He's dressed up in a wrestling tights. Because if you recall...
Oh, is it what is his name? Corporate Kane?
No, he's dressed up in actual tights. You know, just standard tights. Nothing, because remember, Glenn Jacobs was basically threw out all of his gimmicks in the opening week. He said, I used to be a dentist, I used to be this, I used to be a demonic monster, I used to be a corporate demonic monster, and I actually still currently am a mayor. But what you guys haven't seen is me. You haven't seen Glenn Jacobs. And so tonight...
Okay there, Matt Hardy, slow down.
That was weeks ago. That was weeks ago. And then Jeff Cobb demolished him and put him in the hospital. So now Glenn Jacobs is back, comes to fight Jeff Cobb. This match goes 10 minutes. Jim Cornette doesn't really get involved. Jeff Cobb never leaves his feet at all again, but he is probably pushed more this time than he was the first time. This actually goes 10 minutes instead of 3. But he never leaves his feet, and he wins with the deadlift power slam. I could tell this was riveting.
No, my apologies. My apologies. It's just that you can't make me excited for Glenn Jacobs anything.
I understand. You've been conditioned to feel this way. But I needed somebody for Jeff Cobb to beat so that he could still be beating people in anticipation for fighting Brian Cage. And Glenn Jacobs, it gave him enough time for him to come back and make this attempt at least. And because this was a more competitive match, you still get the idea that Jeff Cobb is starting. There's some little cracks in the foundation with Jeff Cobb, with the way that this match went.
I mean, yes, but at the same time, Jeff Cobb is still a monster. He's still a beast.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's not going to be destroying everyone all the time perfectly.
Right. And in no way does this diminish what Jeff Cobb has accomplished and is still accomplishing. And now we know for a fact that your main event for 2 weeks from now, in kayfabe time, but 2 months from now, in December, will be for the ACPW Heavyweight Championship, Brian Cage versus Jeff Cobb with Jim Cornette.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
That is a
beef on beef.
Big ol' hoss fight. Big ol' hoss fight. Well, we got one more match for you. But before we get to that match, we get a promo from Brian Cage. Because we cut back to Tony Schiavone, who's said, Tony, well, I'm here with the ACPW Heavyweight Champion, Brian Cage. First of all, Brian, congratulations on your big win and being ACPW's first champion. Brian Cage, I'm not even going to go much into this promo, pretty much says, well, we know what's going to happen now. I proved that I was the best. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be the best. And I will represent ACPW to the best of my abilities. And Jeff Cobb and Jim Cornette, there's no denying what Jeff Cobb has accomplished here. But make no mistake about it. If Jim Cornette and the rest of his little cult hadn't gotten involved in a lot of different scenarios, he probably wouldn't be where he is. So I don't think that Jeff Cobb right now is going to come at me and work fair. But I'm going to work fair and still win. And I will defend this belt and represent ACPW in the best way I can. And I'll do it factually, strongly, and the way that only a machine can. And more or less. So he pretty much said, it's just a small babyface promo. It's nothing huge. That Brian Cage's ability has never been his gift of gab. So this is a fairly small promo.
True, he lets his muscles do the talking.
Yeah, it's a fairly small promo. Nothing huge, but enough to get the point across. Then we get to our main event. Now, I'm going to preface this match by saying in no way was I influenced by Vince Russo, but I will openly admit that this is overbooked to hell. Because I just didn't have a finish to it. I didn't have a good finish to it. So you're going to have to bear with me on this one. And I openly admit you're going to have to bear with me on this one. It's FTR with Jim Cornette versus Outlaw Inc. ACPW Tag Team Championships on the line. This match goes 20 minutes. And this is what happens. Outlaw Inc., for the second week in a row, have FTR beat. Like, definitively, you could tell they've got him beat. But Corny goes to distract the referee, like he's done several times. And this time, Eddie Kingston goes out and chases him around. And as Eddie Kingston chases him around, Cornette kind of dips and runs, around the ring, trying to get away. And out of nowhere, a fan hits Eddie Kingston in the skull with a stiff right hand, which the referee sees, and the match is thrown out. It turns out, and you get the shot, that right hand has a pair of brass knuckles around it. And the hood goes up, and it's Jay Briscoe.
Oh, the Briscoes.
And then from the other side comes Mark Briscoe, as Homicide goes to start to leave, and FTR is not really sure what happened, so they're just like, screw it, let's just get the belts and let's get the hell out of here. So they grab the belts. Now at this point, Mark Briscoe, as Homicide is in the ring, Mark Briscoe comes in and starts beating down Homicide, and now Homicide and Mark Briscoe are having a fight. Jay Briscoe is now beating down Eddie Kingston, but now it's starting to become like a bit of a brawl. While these guys are fighting in the ring and kind of out and around, FTR is slowly backing up with Cornette. But what they don't see as they're watching this brawl is Matt and Jeff Hardy come out behind them on the ramp. And FTR, then they're backing up, and then they hit the Hardys, and they turn around, and the Hardys start going at it with FTR. And now we've got two different sets of teams brawling with each other here, which ends up leading to a massive pull apart. So there's officials, there's personnel, there's medical teams, there's wrestlers trying to pull these four apart, and it's absolute chaos, overbooked, crazy chaos that fades to black because we've run out of time with four teams brawling with each other, and that's the show.
Everybody fighting everybody.
It's not like with that match we saw last week, which is where everybody just started to fight each other at the finish of Ken Shamrock and R-Truth. There's only two teams fighting. It's only FTR and the Hardys and Outlaw Inc. and the Briscoes. So you're only getting the people who are actually involved in the match fighting. Everyone else is trying to break it up, which is why it's chaos, but it's still controlled chaos, as opposed to Vince Russo's just everybody start punching each other chaos. I booked this for a few reasons. One, because I was running out of time and I needed something that was going to fill this main event and make it worth watching. Two, because I still want the tag division to remain something of importance, and having a big brawl close the show, but still having two prominent feuds be the reason, keeps the focus on the feuds to some extent. So it keeps the tag team matches relatively more important. And this way it kind of keeps the main event scene, with it keeps Cobb and Cage kind of out of the big main event and keeps them from coming to blows with each other, and still makes it feel like the tag team championships are a big enough deal and the feuds are a big enough deal to be fighting this fervently over. I know that's a BS excuse, right, but that's what I'm working with.
No, you're wrestling under the context of a television show. You can't blow every single show with a main event out of the water, because then it just sets the expectations up that you have to do something even bigger next time.
Yeah.
And the thing with Brian Cage and Jeff Cobb is you don't want those two interacting at all.
No.
You want to keep them as far away from each other as possible, yep, until they start fighting each other.
Yep. Absolutely.
Plus, the other thing, too, is that it keeps the belt on FTR, and they cheated once again. They were beaten by the Briscoes.
They were beaten by Outlaw Inc.
They were beaten by Outlaw Inc. until the Briscoes got involved.
But and this one is almost like a victim of circumstance situation where they're like, I don't think FTR even knew anything about the Briscoes being there, but they're like, you know what, we'll take it. You know, we'll take the let's just escape with the belts, like live to fight another day. But the Hardys were right there to kind of start their revenge tour going.
And more importantly, it creates excitement because now you see all these wrestlers going at it, and you don't know what's going to happen next.
That's right.
Unless you tune in.
That's right. So there's a lot to unpack here for both of our shows. Makes next week or month that much more exciting. Great set of shows today, Sky. I think for under the circumstances, we made some entertaining things happen.
I agree, my man. And I look forward to our next shows because they're going to be even better.
That's right. But unfortunately, we have to do 2 reviews in between. Hell in a Cell and Full Gear, and we will see you, Sky, next week for the Hell in a Cell review. Brace up. It's going to be a doozy.
I'm loading up on my alcohol even as we speak.
And I will be as well. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to take our first commercial break. We have just broken the 2-hour mark. Thank you very much for listening. We will see you next week for Hell in a Cell review. That's Skyler Greenberg. I am your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, and we will see you after these commercial breaks.